Hello and good afternoon. And no, I didn't make a new intro, or didn't have Murphy make a new intro for this particular podcast. That's why you see Spider-Man at the top there. But hey, it's got the theme music.
Yep.
It's got some graphics.
I'm also neither Davan nor Jamil.
But you are a mater. You are a mater. So
I am.
you can be here at the Mary Mater Marvel Society. We've been going through and leaving reviews about every MCU installment since WandaVision, since I guess we got into phase 4. So I'm Dave Mater. This is my son, Eamon Mater.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Good to see you. We saw Deadpool and Wolverine on Friday night. That was July 26th. It is now July 28th. And this happens to be corresponding with San Diego Comic-Con, which is part of the reason Jamil can't be here because he's down there.
Yep. Davan, I think, just has kids.
Davan's got kids, and he also has the X-rated podcast. So I know him and Andre are going to be covering this movie on their podcast on Tuesday, because Wolverine and Deadpool, for that matter, are actually kind of X-Men characters, proper. And so
Deadpool is more debatable, but Wolverine is definitely an X-Men.
Yeah, obviously more so Wolverine. Deadpool he's a mutant, so he kind of follows into this X-Men sort of category.
Deadpool even kind of says it himself in the movie. Wolverine is kind of the X-Men.
The X-Men. Yeah, well, especially post the movies.
Yeah.
So spoilers, everybody. We're going to be talking all about Deadpool and Wolverine. If you don't want to know anything about that, this is not the podcast for you quite yet, but maybe it is.
I would recommend going watching it. I had a good time with it.
I did as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about that, breaking down, sharing our thoughts. We're doing it about 2 days later. We didn't really talk about it after the movie, other than we liked it. So Eamon and I are going to be sharing our thoughts. And I said, hey, did you hear the big news out of San Diego? Which Eamon had not. So I was like, well, I'll just tell you on the air. So they're down there. They did their big panel yesterday at San Diego Comic-Con Marvel. Kevin Feige came out, and he did a few different announcements. Talked about this new Captain America movie, the one which will feature Sam Wilson as the proper Captain America, following the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. He's going to be playing just Captain America. We know that Harrison Ford is coming in to play, Thunderbolt Ross, now the president of the United States.
Which is weird, because who is he replacing? Because there was somebody who was Thunderbolt Ross before, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was Bill Hurt.
Okay.
But he passed away a couple years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, he had been playing the role since, Incredible Hulk, going back to 2008. And he had reprised that role in Civil War, and I think, and maybe in Avengers Endgame as well. But Harrison Ford coming in to take over that part, which so that was part of the panel. You saw him come out, and I don't know if this is any kind of big kind of spoilers, but Thunderbolt Ross also is the Red Hulk. So we're expecting to see the Red Hulk against Captain America in this new movie. And so that was all fine. And then they brought up the Fantastic Four cast, Eamon, and Pedro Pascal and some of the new people who've been brought in for that, and that was all fine too.
Not John Krasinski.
Not John Krasinski. No, it's Pedro Pascal.
Yeah,
will be. They went with a whole new cast, which I think will tie kind of into our conversation here about Deadpool and Wolverine. Give us a minute, everybody. We're gonna get there. Because of course, the Fantastic Four were a Fox property. They made a bunch of different movies over at Fox with the Fantastic Four. Not great movies, I would say. But
funny enough, that actually does tie into this movie.
It does very much ties into this movie. So we're going to get to that. But then they announced, okay, we have our new Avengers movies that they're going to be coming after those two movies, after Captain America and the Fantastic Four. We're going to get this new Avengers movie, and they said we got new directors. Eamon, guess who it is? Well, they're not new; they're the old ones. Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers, coming back to take over these next two Avengers movies.
Is this the first time since Endgame?
Yeah, they were basically hadn't done anything in Marvel since Endgame, and so they announced, because they were originally going to do this Kang Dynasty Avengers. I don't know if you how much that was on your radar.
Yeah, but I was aware of that, but then I think mainly Jonathan Majors and everything that happened with him.
Yeah, so they've scrapped those plans. It appears that the Kang Dynasty Avengers movie is over. You know, there was the stuff off screen with Jonathan Majors, but there was also the fact that, you know, Kang and that whole Ant-Man Quantumania movie didn't necessarily do great. That they were probably questioning the how strong is this Kang character to kind of, you know, be the big bad that we need to bring all the Avengers together to fight. And so they've pivoted to that. No, we're going to do Secret Wars. We're doing Avengers Secret Wars. I don't know how familiar you are with that, Eamon, but in the comic books, that's a big deal. That happened kind of in the 80s, the 1980s, where, you know, it was this character called the Beyonder, who brought, you know,
I guess this kind of set up the symbiote too, then, huh?
Potentially, yes,
because that was when it came from, right? So
yes, you're right. That's where Spider-Man originally got the symbiote that he brought back from the Secret Wars. That ends up becoming Venom, and that version of Venom has not been shown in any kind of live action movie version. It's always like a thing falls out of the sky, and then that symbiote comes on to Eddie Brock or to Spider-Man or Spider-Man. Yeah.
It's gonna be Tom Hardy, you think?
I don't know. You know, interestingly enough, like, I don't like those Tom Hardy Venom movies.
No,
really.
yeah,
and
but it could be.
Yeah, it could be.
Or kind of tying them together. It's weird.
Well, you know that Marvel wants to kind of do their own mark now that they got these rights back. Well, Sony's kind of a different story, but, you know, than Fox. But, you know, I think that this is all kind of maybe tie into our conversation about this Deadpool Wolverine movie. Anyway. So that's all to say. Okay, but before we get to Secret Wars, we have to do something else. We have to do another Avengers movie before that, and that is going to be called Avengers Doomsday, as in Doctor Doom, who is a huge part of you know, those
Fantastic Four.
The Fantastic Four and the Secret Wars and all that stuff. But you know, we've already had 2 versions of Doctor Doom in those previous Fox Fantastic Four movies.
Right.
I would say they didn't really land as great cinematic villains in both cases. I don't think either actor is necessarily bad. I think it's just it was not great storytelling.
A good script.
So they said, no, we have our new Doctor Doom. And, you know, they bring out this guy, they pull off the mask, and who is it? Robert Downey Jr. It's going to be Tony Stark will be the next Doctor Doom.
Okay. That's certainly an interesting decision.
It's an interesting decision. Yeah, we're bringing back the Russos. We're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. And there has been sort of a lot of talk about how, you know, the MCU's been potentially in decline since Endgame.
I feel like this is always what desperation looks like. If you need to clamor for the times when you were good like this, that shows how bad things have gotten.
But then sometimes you just got to go back to what's working. So time will tell. Will this move, you know, be looked at as a Hail Mary desperation move, or will it be looked at as a brilliant move that, you know, course corrected the entire ship and brought things back?
I mean, the original Iron Man was kind of a Hail Mary. If you think about it.
Yeah, it kind of was. It was a gamble. They definitely a roll of the dice. The Iron Man character was not as well known. You know, at least not in mainstream kind of things. And yeah, so all that's coming out, maybe to give a shot in the arm to the MCU. But here we are talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, which these are characters that were owned by Fox in terms of their cinematic rights for decades. I've been watching Hugh Jackman play Wolverine since before you were born. Like, you know,
one, I think.
Just one movie, but, you know, I have, you know, like I was still in high school when the first X-Men came out, and here Hugh Jackman is playing Wolverine again. You know,
after previously quitting.
Yeah, he had retired from the role after Logan, which was like 6 years ago. Right?
To be fair, when he retired, he had cancer, and now that he's beaten it, I think that maybe give him a bit of a reason to come back.
Well, it was his choice to come back. He actually calls. So I've watched a lot of press over the last couple of days with, you know, Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, and I just want to say those guys have been going around. They did Hot Ones, they did Jimmy Kimmel, they were on Vanity Fair, they went to The View, they've been everywhere. They've been literally everywhere across the internet, and they're both like, I really like these guys in real life. Like they seem like,
for sure. They have great chemistry.
Yeah, and they talked about how basically like Ryan Reynolds didn't know what to make. He didn't know what to do with Deadpool 3. He was like he had come up with some ideas. They hadn't really settled on anything. And then he's in the car and he gets a call from Hugh Jackman who says, "I want to come back and do it with you. I want to be Wolverine again with you."
Yeah.
And apparently like that's Ryan Reynolds went into Kevin Feige and to the Marvel guys and said, "Okay, this is what we're doing." And he managed to get it sold. Now, I also just heard was that Kevin Feige didn't want Hugh Jackman to come back to this. He was kind of against this idea, but there was this other guy who was president of Disney, which of course acquired Fox.
Right.
Sort of, there was like Deadpool 2 and Logan that came out, and then in the subsequent years, like Disney,
the purchase happened. Yeah,
the purchase happened, and all these rights came over. And so
this movie is kind of about that, if you think about it.
A lot about that. It's more about that than it is like an MCU movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of a movie about like how are you bringing Deadpool into this universe, and I'm not even sure I got a good answer to that by the end of it. But we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
And so this ended up being a great film. I thought standalone.
I thought it was pretty good. Thinking about it, there are a couple of problems I had just thinking about it over the past couple of days, but a lot of people have been flaming this movie pretty hard.
Flame on?
Flaming.
Like
they've been trashing it.
Well, we can talk about those criticisms and what they are. Okay, like let's get into this film. And I think that my biggest struggle with this movie is the beginning of the movie. I think once we get rolling, I really don't have a lot negative to say about it, but
I'd agree with that too.
It starts off in 2018. I guess so Wade Wilson has used like the time traveling device he got from Cable in the end of which I kind of forgot about. Again, this is
me too.
It had been 6 years since I saw Deadpool 2. I didn't rewatch it before going into this movie.
Me either.
But they do look for you to kind of be a little bit up on that.
Ride his girlfriend, shoot himself in the head a couple of times, and
like at the end of Deadpool 2. But that was like such a gag that I didn't really take it as seriously as I guess we're meant to. Right.
Yeah.
And so he's there talking to Happy Hogan. Now this is I guess before the Infinity War and before the snap and all that's happened, right?
I guess so. Yeah, it's in. Well, it's confusing because we kind of go back and forth between the present and 2018 a couple times. I thought that was supposed to happen in the present.
No, because they actually say 2018 and they say Earth 616.
Okay.
On the caption there, in the sacred timeline specifically. And so he says, "Hey, I want to join the Avengers," but he kind of like the interview is kind of like, "My girlfriend wants me to join the Avengers and be a hero."
Right.
Which I was like, why is this a thing?
It's a weird plot point.
I couldn't really figure out what was going on between Wade Wilson and his romantic interest, Vanessa.
I've always liked Deadpool, but I do not care about this subplot. I did not care about it in Deadpool 1. I certainly didn't care about it in Deadpool 2. And I still
you mean the romance story?
Yeah.
I would disagree with you that I do like that storyline. I think that that Ryan Reynolds and who plays Vanessa?
Couldn't tell.
She's Marina Baccarin. I think that they're really good together in both of the previous movies. Like she's not in this movie a lot, but like she's I think she's good. Like I get that's maybe not everybody's thing, but like that's kind of driving this whole thing. So then we kind of flash forward to 6 years later, and Wade is now retired from being Deadpool. He's working as a car salesman.
Yeah, with
up with a buddy there.
Yeah. Working with name? I can't remember.
Peter Wisdom,
yeah,
who was a member of X-Force in the previous movie, who I'd forgotten about that character in 6 years, honestly. So like, I was having to kind of get up to speed a lot with it, but I was like, okay, so we're in the MCU. He asked to join the Avengers, and then he basically went back to his home universe and he retired. That's kind of okay. I was like, okay, I don't really get it, but fine. And so yeah, he's got the whole toupee thing.
Toupee. Yep.
Yeah, they end up having a birthday party for him, like a surprise birthday party for him, and there's some good jokes in there,
Yeah,
like
there is.
I don't know if we need to hit on every joke, but like the humor in this movie is very funny. Like there's
It's pretty good. Yeah.
every time there's the whole thing with the cocaine, which I'd
Yep.
seen in the trailers and stuff was
Yep.
was funny. Anyway, so the TVA shows up and they kind of kidnap him. The TVA, from Loki.
Yeah,
The
so I
show
haven't watched Loki, so I don't really know much about it. But it was this character in Loki before this point?
No. So Mr. Paradox is kind of he's one of the main villains of the movie. He's a TVA worker. I'm trying to remember the actor's name here. Matthew McFadden, who's from the show Succession. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Eamon, but he's very good on that show. He doesn't have a British accent on that show. He's an American accent. So I feel like
is he British though?
Oh, I need to look it up. He is British in real life. So he's doing in Succession he's doing a fake accent. I guess this is probably closer to his real accent.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he kidnaps him and he kind of explains to Wade Wilson like, you're kind of important and we want to bring you into the main timeline, the sacred timeline. And whatever, but yeah. So anyway, just to touch on the TVA, they're kind of like the time cops of the Marvel universe. They are, the Mary Maters Only Society. Hey, Davan, you can jump in if you want.
Yeah, Davan, you're allowed in if you want. Come on in.
But you had some policy about not reviewing things opening weekend, so which I don't subscribe to. But
yeah,
anyway, we're here if you want to talk about it. But anyway, and yeah, the TVA. So like everything aesthetically with them, like their 1970s look, that was all from the show. And you saw like the boss who comes in later, like at the end of the movie. Her?
Was she? Yeah, she was in there for like.
She's that's Agent 13. She's from the show.
Okay.
But we didn't see like Owen Wilson. I guess he had retired by the end of Loki season 2. Spoilers for Loki season 2. Another Wilson. But a real life Wilson.
Real life Wilson.
Anyway, so all of that kind of stuff there. Mr. Paradox, he ends up giving Deadpool a new suit. He ends up giving him new adamantium katanas.
Yeah.
And so he explains that the universe that Deadpool's from, the Fox cinematic universe, is dying because Logan died. So basically they're saying that he's like an anchor individual, that his death at the end of Logan, which I thought was even an alternate dimension from the Fox universe. I didn't think it was the main.
It was supposed to be the future.
It was supposed to be
yeah.
But in that future, like wasn't like Cyclops and all of them were already dead. And
listen, I think they're just running with the fact that it makes zero sense.
And so they're saying because Logan dies at the end of that movie, that therefore the entire cinematic universe needs to die.
It's going to die.
It's going to die. And so Mr. Paradox
wants to kill it faster.
Wants to kill it faster. But why?
Because
reasons?
Yeah.
Okay. Deadpool's against this because he's all his friends, like his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend, I guess, Peter and all the people that were at his birthday party are going to be eradicated from this action. So he eventually turns on them, and so he says, "No, I need a." Here he is.
7. Yeah.
I'm not out in the yard with the girls, but I've got the feeling you guys needed an explanation there for a second. Yeah, it does all make sense. I swear to you. Other than the fact that that Wolverine probably should have had. But no, that's not true either. Okay, never mind. No, it all makes sense.
Go on.
Well, what was your guys' confusion there? I was signing in, so I sort of.
We were confused why Mr. Paradox wanted to end the timeline early.
Oh, because he's just thinks it's lazy to let them die gradually, and a waste of efficiency. He's just like, why do we do that when we can just get rid of it in 24 hours or something?
Okay.
Because it's his job to oversee this super slow degradation of the universe. Like, that's just, it's like doing paperwork at work. He's just like, I don't want to do this anymore when we can just speed it all up. And he thinks it's like a mercy killing, right?
Okay. Here's my other question about it was, so the movie Logan, right? Like, that is the same universe as all of the X-Men movies?
I mean, debatable.
I think it was supposed to take place in like the year 2029.
It's in the future. Yeah, it's like, I think it's actually might have been 2024, but like when it came, I don't know, but it was like, it's not far. It's like the near future.
Yeah,
right.
So you could probably take it or leave it if you want to assume it's a regular Wolverine. Because in Logan, for example, he has his metal claws, his adamantium claws, whereas at the end of the Wolverine, they were bone. So if they're the same universe, then in Logan, he should have had bone claws. So they can say it's the same universe, but why didn't
it probably is?
Claws?
They've kind of mashed it all together.
Yeah. So
here's the other thing I'm confused about. All my confusion comes from the beginning of this movie, and then I'm pretty good. But the other thing was, like, why is he broken? Why does he want to join the Avengers in the first place? Why is he broken up with Vanessa to start this movie off?
Well, the Vanessa thing gets explained in a bit.
Yeah, they cover that in flashbacks a bit.
Yeah. The reason he wants to join the Avengers is because, well, I guess in his own words, he said he needs it.
Well, it's because Vanessa, they have that scene at the dinner table where he's just like, he's in a funk and he's just like working at a department store or something. And she's just like, dude, you need to use your gifts for something. And he's like stuck in a rut and can't figure out a way to do that. So he's just like, he's like, if you don't want to be with me, don't be, or whatever. So she leaves him. So then he's like, I need to join the Avengers because then Vanessa will take me back and think I'm not wasting my powers, basically.
Yeah. Yep. I get, okay, so like, fine, but like, I just didn't really understand why she had this requirement of him to become a greater hero. He was already kind of a hero.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably maybe the weakest part of the movie, but I don't know. It could be a for him thing. Like,
like
you're not happy at this department store either. Like,
right.
Do what makes you happy. Do what's better for everybody. Just, I don't know, trying to push him in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, like be less morally ambiguous, be more, a true white knight sort of thing. Instead of,
which is odd for a character like her, because she's kind of a morally gray, kind of messed up character.
Right.
Too, so it's like they're all just trying to be big damn heroes in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was all that. And okay. My last question about this whole beginning is like, why?
Yes.
Is this like this idea of like an anchor being? Is this a comic book concept, or is this something they made up for the movie? Like, somebody in the universe
that one dies. I would say is made up for the movie. Now they have things similar. Like there are certain, it's not even that similar. They have things in Marvel where there are beings that only exist across all the multiverse. Like the Phoenix, for example, there's only one Phoenix in all the multiverse. So like, that's the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah, like this anchor being, and this idea like the entire universe would die fast or slowly based on James Howlett dying.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, why would Wolverine be an anchor? Like, I think that's just a joke as far as like the entire Fox movieverse depended on him because they threw.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Actually, I think that makes sense. That
they do a lot of fourth wall jokes in this, obviously. Like,
yeah, like the guy with forks for hands. That's your anchor being.
Like, Buddy's just like, I can tap the fourth wall too, and just the proposal.
Like, well, yeah, like nice pool. Yeah, that's a great gag in the movie. I love that too. Okay, so I think all of those kind of issues aside, I think I'm good to keep going here with the plot.
All right. I might jump back in later. I got to go.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Have a good day. Yep.
Okay. All right. So then, he turns on Mr. Paradox after he figures out what his plan is. He steals the temp pad, which is kind of like this little device tricorder thing you can use to jump from timeline or dimensions. And so there's a whole montage where he goes like to recruit. He wants to recruit Wolverine to help him fight the TVA and save his universe, or I guess be the new anchor to replace that. Because he tried to go to the grave of Logan. That's the opening scene of the movie, which is kind of a time jump, and he uses like his skeleton, his adamantium skeleton, in various ways to kill everybody. Also,
which is fun.
It's fun. Also, just have to mention that like he's like, get my country's name out of your mouth about being Canadian. Because, I love that Wolverine and Deadpool are Canadian, and they're
and so is Ryan Reynolds.
So is Ryan Reynolds, not Hugh Jackman, but the character is,
and
all that. Yeah, so that was nice. That they, that they reinforced all that.
Yep.
So the that whole montage is hilarious, where he's going to different dimensions, encountering different versions of Wolverine, including a comic accurate height, like short version of Wolverine.
Yeah, that was really good. There was what was it? What was his name? Henry Cavill Wolverine.
Well, yeah. So there's Henry Cavill, who's played Superman famously, and they called him the Cavalrine and all this kind of stuff. It was really fun in that montage, because there've been rumors about him playing Wolverine.
Yeah.
And a lot of that kind of sort of meta stuff gets thrown into here.
I think my favorite part was the one where he's just on a giant X in a sea of skulls,
which is from the comic books.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different comic book imagery. Yeah, where he's like being crucified.
Yeah, on
this X cross. There was the kind of the poker playing version of him from the comic books with the eye patch. Yeah, all that was fun. But eventually he finds this other version of Logan, kind of depressed, drinking at a bar. This is the Logan that effectively we're going to follow
the new one.
The entire movie. This is the one that he ends up teaming up with. We're told that he's kind of described us as the worst version of Logan, the one who it's not all revealed right away, but basically, he was the one who never really bought into the X-Men, was too cynical to really get on board, never would wear the suit, never would, he was even less into the X-Men than any other version we've seen in the movies. And it seems like the X-Men got killed.
He inadvertently let them die,
and then afterwards he went on a murderous rampage and killed lots of people, good and bad, in revenge. So but nobody can kill him, I guess, in his world. So he's not welcome anywhere, but he's kind of trying to drink himself to death, which I find interesting because he has a healing factor, and how much can he really damage his liver, or how drunk can he really get?
He's trying
hard, so he ends up teaming up here with Deadpool eventually, after they start fighting, but eventually those two, they come back to the TVA and they get pruned, which is like, you saw that when they got hit with the stick, and it sends them to what's called the Void. And a lot of the movie takes place in the Void, which is, if you haven't seen Loki, that is it's described pretty accurately as a purgatory that the TVA sends all sort of like the variants, all the time offshoots and different things that they come across. It's at the end of the time, or the end of time. And it's got this big smoke monster thing that eats you if you show up there.
Yeah. In this movie specifically, it's kind of used as the world of continuities past.
Right. Well, it's all the multiverse and across many different timelines, and all of the sort of like the mistakes, or like the alternate versions that really aren't supposed to be there. They all get dumped there. It's a big dumping ground. Right. For different versions, different variants. And that was like, I really recommend watching Loki, both seasons, to, get into all what that's about. Because we saw like the Loki at the end in Avengers Endgame, who like steals the Tesseract. Right. That's where he ends up. That's, he ends up going there into the TVA, and lots of great stuff happens in that show. But anyway, so they're now there in the Void. They run into who we think might at
Chris
first,
Evans. He runs into Chris.
Yeah, we ran into Chris Evans, who I was like, oh, Steve Rogers is, but and I they completely got me. Like I
think they got most people when he goes flame on,
because you're expecting to say I can do this all day, because like eventually there's Cassandra Nova, who's pretty much the main villain of the movie. I would say she's there in the void, the twin sister of Charles Xavier from another dimension.
Is this a real character?
It's a comic book character. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, okay. I've never heard of her before.
Yeah, I've heard of her before, but I'm not super familiar. Anyway, so her goons show up, including like a version of Sabretooth.
Yeah.
That fights Wolverine, and they have a quick fight. But then instead of saying like I can do this all day, Chris Evans says flame on, and then we see, hey, which made perfect sense.
Human Torch, yeah.
It's Human Torch from the Fantastic Four movies, which was made by Fox, and I get like they never did an X-Men Fantastic Four crossover back then, but there was talks of it, and I guess the idea is that they are the same universe. And so he was able, but then we see even like there's Pyro there, like a variant of Pyro from the X-Men movies, X-Men 2 and 3 specifically, who's able to use his powers on Johnny Storm and kind of suck ways and pull that all out. Yeah, and so eventually they get captured, they get brought back.
And this is where we meet Cassandra Nova.
Cassandra Nova, who lives in a castle built out of a dead Paul Rudd, a giant man.
Yeah.
Variant.
Which I think Paul Rudd is alive in the actual MCU, isn't he? Like, Ant-Man?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, but this is again like most of these like versions we're meeting, they're probably not like the main version. Like they're a time variant, right? Of the original versions. Like even Cassandra herself, I think, comes from an alternate timeline where Xavier had a twin, and I think in most she wouldn't. In comics, Johnny would smoke Pyro. Well,
I'll take your word on that.
I would probably believe it, but in this movie, he got the best of him. So then they come back to the castle. We meet Cassandra. Understand how, like, she was put there as an infant by the TVA. We see how powerful she is. Like,
she basically kills Johnny by ripping his skin off.
She rips off his skin with just like one motion. So she's a powerful telekinetic, but she's also a powerful like telepath, psychic. To the point where she's very like her powers are very impressive in the movie. And they end up getting away from her eventually. In the Honda Odyssey, the
Honda Odyssey,
the van that they kind of steal and get away. They run into this other Deadpool variant named Nice Pool.
With the cheap plastic suit. I love that so much.
The plastic suit. He doesn't have like the deformities or anything. Apparently, no regenerative powers either.
Yeah.
And he's got the dog.
Mary Poppins or a
dog pool, who apparently was voted like one of the ugliest dogs in the UK in real life.
Wow.
And they brought her in. And, like, Ryan Reynolds was doing an interview about like the tongue was constantly going in his mouth, and he had to be like into it in the movie, but he was really grossed out in real life. So some good gags there with the dog and whatever. But and like Deadpool wants to steal the dog from Nice Pool the whole time. He's like, what if you died? Can I just have the dog? They end up meeting other Resistance leaders inside of the Void, other variants.
Well, hold on. I think you're skipping a crucial part here, the part with the fight.
Oh, well, there's the fight in the forest in the minivan.
Yeah.
Because the whole time Deadpool is selling this idea to Wolverine, like, well,
we can get you out of here.
We can save your universe. We can undo the damage in your universe and whatever. He's like, well, we might be able to. Yeah, and that's where Wolverine like loses it. What do you
really goes into him?
Yeah, and then he like tears. Yeah, he gives like a big angry speech at Deadpool, and then Deadpool's like, "I'm gonna fight you now." And so apparently they kind of fight all day and night, and then they get kidnapped after that fight, right?
By X-23.
I guess it was X-23, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah, no.
And so we come back here. We get to meet these other Void variants, including Elektra,
who is her original actress, I think.
It's Jennifer Gardner. Who played her in not the original Daredevil, which with Ben Affleck, in Elektra,
and in Elektra.
and in the movie Elektra, which was a spin-off of Daredevil, which were they were both made by Fox, so it made a lot of sense that they were there, or she was there specifically. Like she was also married Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And had a bunch of kids with him, and they said, "Where's Daredevil?" And she goes, "Don't worry about it."
And then we got Wesley Snipes as Blade, who I think is the highlight of this group.
Yeah, well, it was kind of incredible, and I had forgotten about how Ryan Reynolds was in Blade Trinity. And apparently did not get along with Wesley Snipes. Apparently, in real life, these two do not like each other. But apparently, they were able to put that aside. I'm sure money helped, and they got Wesley Snipes back here as Blade.
Yeah,
like albeit with some gray in his beard.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. You know, like to have him, and then lastly we had Gambit
from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
No, this was a different. This was who's this actor? What's this actor's name again? Help me out here.
Tatum something apparently.
Tatum. What's his name? Tatum O'Neal.
Tatum O'Neal.
Okay, so for years Tatum O'Neal was Channing Tatum. That's his real name. Channing Tatum. Thank you. Channing Tatum was attached to play a live action version of Gambit for years and years and years.
Okay.
It eventually, it never got made. It went into development hell and sort of thing. And so when he shows up in this movie as Gambit, as Remy LeBeau, and he's doing that accent,
the fake Cajun thing.
Oh my God. Like
it's really good.
If they had actually made that movie with Channing Tatum, there's no way that they would have let him do that accent.
Oh yeah, no.
Like they would have made him do pretty much his normal accent, maybe with a little bit of an inflection. But this was like full on Cajun style.
Yeah.
Like even more than the cartoon, I would say.
Yeah.
And every time he spoke, it was hilarious to me.
Ryan Reynolds Deadpool keeps saying, "What are you saying? I can't understand you."
Which, I have no idea. Yeah. He was almost like he needed a translator at times.
Yeah. Although I will say one thing I didn't like. I thought that Gambit's suit costume looked terrible.
Well, it was very comic accurate, but and I think that's what I think that's what they were kind of going for. Is like, what if we just went with this incredibly comic accurate version of Gambit?
Yeah,
and that's what you're playing, Channing Tatum. And for me, it kind of worked, even though I agree that like if they wouldn't have gone quite this far. There's also a lot of jokes. We haven't even talked about the fact that Wolverine is wearing the yellow and blue spandex.
How do you feel about the sleeves
on the Wolverine suit?
Yeah.
My least favorite part of the suit is the upper section of it, like I guess the torso section of it. Like I think that later on in the movie where he loses that and he's just the mask and the pants, I think that looks the best. But the jacket and everything, I guess like if it was sleeveless, I might like it a little better. But it doesn't work for me quite as well as the Deadpool costume does.
Yeah.
Right.
I couldn't.
But the whole joke that Deadpool makes about like, look who you fighting crime for the LA Rams with the yellow and blue.
Yeah.
Like that was a good one too.
That was
Yeah. But so
and basically then we enter
the third act, I guess.
Well, and we enter X-23 being played by her actual actress from Logan, whose name I can't remember.
Obviously 6 years older herself now.
She's like, what, 12 now, probably?
I don't know. How old was she? I can look it up. Daphne Keane is now 19.
She's 19. Oh, wow.
So she was like 13 back when she did that.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, they say, well, we gotta make this charge at Cassandra. We got to try to stop her. The only thing that can stop her psychic abilities is Juggernaut's helmet, because the Magneto
helmet was destroyed by her.
Yeah, like so they tried to take her down before and it's always failed, but they're going to do this. And
which is a weird plot point to me because Juggernaut's helmet has never had that property.
Well, it does block Xavier's powers.
Oh, okay.
In the comic books. You know,
Okay.
so it's that was all on track. But who played this version of Juggernaut?
I thought for a second it was Sylvester Stallone, but I don't think it actually was.
I was expecting Vinnie Jones to be back here from the from the Last Stand, because it looks like the exact same costume. And then they also brought a version of that of Juggernaut into Deadpool 2, if you remember, who was very different in that version. But this was closer back to the Vinnie Jones, but it wasn't Vinnie Jones playing this version of Juggernaut. Anyway, some rando Juggy. Yeah, I guess so.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention the 20th Century Fox logo in the
graveyard, in the dumping ground.
Yeah, that was really good.
Well, I can't hit on every joke, but yeah, there was a lot in this one. Anyway, so there was also the great scene at the fire where Laura X-23 talks to the Wolverine, and he's trying to drink himself by the fire, and he says, "I'm the wrong guy. You have the wrong guy," and she says, "You were always the wrong guy." And so you weren't. Yeah, right. Until he kind of rose to the
I just think that one of the best parts of this movie is the somber moments with Wolverine.
Yeah, well, they made him a really tortured Wolverine, and Wolverine is kind of already a tortured character to begin with. So
like Hugh Jackman just did an amazing job with it, and
Well, yeah, Hugh Jackman's amazing in the film. Like, definitely full credit to him. Anyway, so they say we're going in the morning. We march into the brink. Into the possibly into death. And it seems like Wolverine's not going to come until they march up in their Honda Odyssey, and he eventually comes out of the trunk. And they have this big battle with all of Cassandra's henchmen. Pyro ends up betraying Cassandra, I believe.
Yeah, he ends up shooting her.
Yeah,
which actually works because she has the helmet on.
Yeah, because at one point she has sort of the advantage on Wolverine. It seems like she's going to sort of, get him, but then they turn the tables on her. Eventually, they have her on with the Juggernaut helmet, but they can't. There's a stalemate basically. Like they can't do what they need to do without her powers. But once they take the helmet off, she's going to kill them, right? And so, but then what is it because of the thing with Pyro that she kind of like gives them sort of a.
I can't quite remember.
I can't really why I think because Logan is like, no, come on, like you're because he says about Charles Xavier, her brother, that he wouldn't want me to to do
Chuck.
this to you, right? Chuck, yeah, like he wanted me to be a better person, so I'm going to try to be that person. Trying to do all that. So anyway, she's able to open a portal with
a sling ring
that she got from a version of Doctor Strange, I guess. And so they go back to the original X-Men Fox universe, where we see the TVA has got the Time Ripper. They're trying to destroy the world, and Cassandra shows up, and she decides that she's going to steal this Time Ripper, and she's going to destroy not just this universe but all universes.
Yeah,
as sort of a revenge plot, because she doesn't like that the TVA tried to have her assassinated inside the Void. That's kind of like Pyro was working for the TVA and all of that. So she's here for just a full blown revenge.
And she brings an army of Deadpools out.
Oh, army of Deadpools from the Void, which ends up being a big fight here with Wolverine.
There were some pretty cool Deadpools in there. Like there was Cowboy Deadpool.
There was Lady Deadpool. There was just the
Samurai Deadpool.
The zombie head of Deadpool that was with a little propeller on its head. So lots of different.
I don't know if that's what that one's from.
Yeah, like from a pure costuming standpoint, it was hilarious.
There was a baby Deadpool.
There's a baby. The samurai one. I don't know. There was all kinds of versions. And Wolverine's just kind of happy that he gets Headpool. Was that okay?
Headpool? I like that.
Yeah. For Marvel. Zombies.
Oh, for Marvel Zombies. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Oh, so that's our first version of a live action Marvel zombie.
Interesting.
Anyway, so there's a great sequence here where Nicepool dies
because Deadpool uses him as cover,
like a shield, and steals his dog,
minute,
and steals his golden guns too. as well. But after they kind of kill all the Deadpools regenerate, and then they're coming back at them, and like it seems like they're at sort of another stalemate. But then Peter Wisdom shows up, and they're like, "Oh, Peter's here! Peter's the best guy ever!"
Everybody has a Peter.
Every Deadpool has a Peter, and this kind of completely pacifies all the Deadpools. And all that. So that was so then Wolverine and Deadpool Prime, I guess, can decide to like finally make their rush at Cassandra here. They have to just stop this Time Ripper, and they have to go under and try to do something with to stop the antimatter. It was very Star Trek-y kind of in how all this played out, but they would die. Whoever tried to do this would die. And so at first Wolverine says, "No, I'll do it." And then Wade
Deadpool
Wilson
tricks him,
and he says, "No, I'm going to do it." But then as he's trying to sacrifice himself, he can't do it all alone. And then Wolverine has to kind of, they do it together, and because they do it together, eventually they're able
which was a very emotional moment. I really liked it.
Yeah, it was good. So they save the day.
I think it's a bit of cop out though that they survive.
Yeah, but I guess that's what if they just die, that's the end of the two characters. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know, like we've seen Logan die before in the previous movie, so I don't know.
But the whole point was like it was atomization, right?
Yeah, but I guess with the two of them together, that didn't come to pass. We then see that's what B-15 shows up. She arrests Paradox at the end of the movie when they kind of figure out what he's up to. And then so she reveals that whatever they've done here, their timeline is no longer, their universe is no longer deteriorating. It's not going to be destroyed. They've kind of saved it indirectly. And so Wade says, "Can you let the others out of the void?" And she says, and rewrite Logan's, like, his timeline. She's like, "No, we can't rewrite his timeline because he had to become the person he was in order to be the hero in this movie."
I do appreciate that idea, actually.
Right. That was very Star Trek-y too. Yeah. I need my pain. My pain is what makes me. So anyway, so then there's kind of like almost like a goodbye here between Logan and Wade, but then they end up what we see here that like Wade gets Vanessa back, and then the Wolverine, I guess, goes on to live in this universe now. Yeah. Like,
he just becomes this Wolverine because he has to be the low-bearing Wolverine, and his universe basically doesn't exist anymore there's nothing for him there anymore.
There's nothing for him to really go back to, but it still exists, but and are there I'm still confused by the timeline of, like, is Logan dead already in Wade's world, or is there now two Logans?
The original Logan is already dead.
That's already happened.
I don't understand either.
Yeah, that could use a little clarification for the timelines of it all. But anyway, that's kind of the ending of the movie. Voiced by Nathan Fillion. That's who did Deadpool? Okay. Cool. Yeah, anyway, so that's kind of like, and then we get, like, in the credits, we got a lot of montage about all the years of the Fox movies going back to the original X-Men.
That was nice.
They played Green Day at the time of my life and all that. And kind of like, it was kind of like the movie felt like more of like a swan song, sort of like a love letter to the Fox universe. Hey.
So at the end of Deadpool 2, he starts time jumping.
Right.
So that's why, like, where Deadpool 2 ended before he starts time jumping, Wolverine's still alive in that universe because Logan is in the future. But since he was just timey-wimey time jumping around, he goes to the future to try to get Logan. And
he goes to Logan's time together.
Yeah.
So are there two Logans in his world?
No, there's a different timeline, right? Like he could have just gone back in time further and found an alive Logan. They went to the dead Logan for jokes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to figure out in the Fox universe.
Yeah.
In the Fox, like, when does Logan die? What year does Wade Wilson live in that universe? It's like all that's a little bit confusing, but
see, there's more than one Fox universe, because technically the McAvoy actors, that whole cast, is in the past, right?
Right.
But Deadpool's in present day, so his X-Men should be like the originals, James Marsden. And
they've been making jokes about this since Deadpool 1, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
God,
And like when he goes to
so
the X-Men,
confusing.
he finds McAvoy and all them.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense because they should be old like Patrick Stewart. So it's like you can't take any of that serious in Deadpool.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he still had his hair too.
Universes. Like the Colossus in the first X-Men movie is American and he's Russian in the Deadpool movie.
True.
So
right.
they're not the same.
Yeah, they can't be, right? Obviously, we have more than one version of Gambit now, and
Tatum's Gambit was so good. Gotta go.
You liked,
except for his costume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was. Are you still there?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to leave.
Wait, one last thing before. Oh. Anyways, Davan, if you're still here watching, I just want to show you guys one last thing before we wrap up our thoughts on the movie. There was a promotion for this movie for an Xbox controller for Deadpool and Wolverine. And if it shows up correctly, if I can, because I can't see the camera. It has an ass.
Yeah. That's Canada's ass.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I just thought that was really cool and really funny.
No, yeah, it was cool. This movie was a lot of fun. I definitely want to watch it again. You know, it like I think all these Deadpool movies have been good, you know, and I guess my only disappointment was that, like, you know, it wasn't very MCU, but it was a little bit.
I kind of appreciate that, actually.
Yeah. Like I was left like saying, well, cool, like, because, you know, this is like maybe gonna be the biggest movie for the MCU since I don't even know what, probably Spider-Man across the you know, or not the Across the Spider-Verse, but the you know, what was the Spider-Man No Way Home. Like I feel like that's going to be like, you know, like this is probably the biggest movie since then, but it's also kind of like an end of that Fox universe. But then we also saw in like what was it in the Marvels that Rambeau, right? Like she ended up in a version of the Fox universe with Beast. Is this ringing bells? Or anyone who saw the Marvels?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we saw Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer showed up, and I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe like, so I think there's more to come with that. I feel like the merging of these universes still has more to do. I know that like they want to eventually make their own version of the X-Men that wouldn't be with, you know, Hugh Jackman and any of those actors, right? So they're going to want to recast them just like they've done here with the X-Men character or the Fantastic Four characters. They're going to do their own take on it here. And, you know, kind of speaks to the reason like that Kevin Feige tried to talk Hugh Jackman out of doing this.
Yeah.
But, you know, like how I'm glad we did get this movie. Too,
I'm glad we did.
Even if it doesn't neatly fit into the Grand Master plan.
No.
Right.
But then how is that Grandmaster plan doing right now? Not exactly good.
We got Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
That could be good, or it could be not.
It will either be really good or absolutely terrible, and there's not going to be any in between.
Yeah, like, and I guess when Deadpool shows up, because they wanted Deadpool in this movie to just become part of the main MCU universe, and he doesn't do that. He ends up like pretty much living in his own home universe by the end of this movie. So I'm gonna be like, how when they do bring Deadpool into an Avengers movie or to anything like that, is he always gonna be having to come from another dimension or another timeline or whatever you want to call it, another Earth? Is that going to be a sort of a permanent thing or not? I don't know. And does it matter? I don't know.
No, not really.
What's Louise saying here? Wolverine, it was already immortalized with this movie.
Wolverine was already immortalized with Logan.
Yeah, like geez, like he's a great like character. I think, you know, not all of these X-Men movies have been great, like, you know, but on the Wolverine movies either. But you know, I really do appreciate the legacy that and how much Hugh Jackman has put into this role over 24, 25 years. And I, you know, and as much as I liked Logan, but I liked this more. I think this is a kind of a better ending for Hugh Jackman in this part.
That's interesting. I do think I preferred Logan more.
Yeah, but now that's not the definitive ending, you know.
It's still the ending for that Wolverine.
That it is still the end, like that Wolverine, until his bones were desecrated.
Yeah.
By Deadpool.
Yeah.
And used as projectiles and everything else. Okay, well, do you want to hit up some trivia here? I'll just see if there's any any facts, anything we missed here. So Hugh Jackman said he was really done with playing this character after Logan, but he says, I just wanted to do it. I felt it in my gut. And then he wanted to work with Ryan Reynolds. You know, as they had met on the set of X-Men Origins Wolverine back in 2008.
They really weren't on screen together.
They were a few scenes, yeah.
A couple of scenes.
A couple of scenes, but like if you really like these two have been playing these two characters almost for 20 years, like, you know, together in some respects, right? Pretty incredible. Kevin Feige served as an associate producer on the original X-Men movie and was present at Hugh Jackman's original audition for Wolverine. He said, for Jackman and for me, I think it was for all the fans at Marvel. It's unbelievable for what has happened for 23 years. To have Hugh come back is incredible. For me personally, that is where I started. It was where I was there for the first on-set edition, and he flew up to Toronto to do a read with Anna Paquin. I remember sitting behind the camera.
Who's Anna Paquin?
Anna Paquin played Rogue.
Oh, okay.
Right. And it's very, you know, he says it's just incredible, you know, all these years later, he's working with him again on this movie.
I remember when I was a kid, I think I thought the Rogue in the first couple X-Men movies was Elliot Page.
No, that was Kitty Pryde.
Okay.
Yeah. And that didn't show up until later.
Okay.
So Ryan Reynolds said he and the makers purposely asked for a lower budget than Disney was prepared to offer them, remembering that the first Deadpool was such a success because they had the constant time and budget limitations, which fostered an atmosphere for great creativity. There's a lot of jokes in the movie, like when Chris Evans dies, and he's like, "You know what he was doing to the budget? We had to kill him off. Come on."
Yeah. But that also brings up the end credits sequence. So if we go back to when they first meet, what's her name? You know,
Sandra.
Deadpool says all these things that apparently Johnny Storm says, and it gets him killed.
Right.
And as we find out eventually, it was all true.
Because in the original scene, it sounds like Deadpool's making it all up, right?
Yeah.
And Chris Evans is like, "I would never say those things. I don't even know what any of that means." But then we get this thing, and I was like, I wasn't quite sure if this is just Deadpool revisionist history, or if this is actually where this is to be suggested. This is what actually happened.
Yeah. But I have to admit, it's quite hilarious seeing someone as family friendly as Chris Evans just completely swearing, and even goes farther than Deadpool does, which is really good.
Well, I think that was really the gag, especially. He was just hearing all that stuff kind of Chris Evans' mouth, which doesn't sound right. He would not be the right choice to play Deadpool.
No.
You know, but in the original X-Men movie, Wolverine says of the team suit, "You actually go outside in these things," to which Cyclops says, "What would you prefer, yellow spandex?" The live-action Wolverine would not appear in a signature yellow costume until this movie, 24 years after the release.
And they mocked that.
Yeah.
In this movie.
By the way, that mask in particular, that Wolverine mask,
looks really good.
Amazing. It looks amazing.
It looks basically comic accurate.
Oh yeah, it looked so good. You know, like the rest of the world, I've waited 2 decades to see this is the director saying this. I've waited 2 decades to see the Wolverine in a whole movie with Deadpool, and I don't even know this is our last shot at Wolverine on screen. So I was going to make a goddamn sure that yellow and blue suit was on there just once, and we had to get it right.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I mean, I think they did.
Hugh Jackman said, "How did we never do this? It looks so right. It felt so right." I was like, "That's him." Yeah.
I do think that Wolverine is one of the few X-Men who can like not wear the outfit and still feel at least somewhat right, because he's so often not a part of the X-Men. And
you see, like, there's like the white beater and jeans Wolverine, and like, you know, there's different costumes for the Wolverine. I actually kind of liked, we saw in in the montage earlier in the movie, you saw like the yellow and brown version.
Yeah, and then we saw Hulk.
The Hulk was there, but like yellow and I actually preferred the yellow brown version to the yellow blue version.
Blue? Yeah.
Yeah.
I generally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, you know, that's personal preference. Hugh Jackman said, I was on my way. I was just driving, literally just felt like a bolt of lightning came over me in my gut. And I knew I wanted to do this film with Ryan for Deadpool and Wolverine to come back together. I swear to you, when I said I was done, I really thought I was done. But in the back of my head, ever since I saw Deadpool 1, I was like, these two characters together, I knew it. I knew the fans wanted it since I had to put in the clause. People talked about these two. So that always had been there. And I just knew. I literally couldn't wait to arrive. As soon as I arrived, I rang Ryan. And I said, like, let's do it. Like I hadn't rung my agent, no one. He just said, "Oh, let's do it." Yeah, so pretty incredible that he felt the need. And I'm glad he did.
Yeah, me too.
The dog Peggy, as I mentioned, was Britain's ugliest dog. Makes her Hollywood debut as Dogpool in this movie. This is the first MCU movie to receive an R rating.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy to think about, actually.
The suit that Deadpool wears is a lighter shade of red than his and has larger eye circles than his previous suits. This was Deadpool's comic book in the 1990s. The filmmakers cite the buddy comedies Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Midnight Run, and 48 Hours, and another 48 Hours as influences on the film. I can see that.
That makes sense, especially Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Kind of how
right.
If you say Deadpool is John Candy and Wolverine is
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Neil Page in the movie. No, that's a good reference there. The first R-rated movie directly distributed under Walt Disney Motion Pictures as opposed to one of its banners like Touchstone. Although this meant for audiences 17 years and older, Ryan Reynolds admitted that he showed the movie to his 9-year-old daughter and his 7-year-old mother, and that they both loved it. So, hey, there you go. The other thing that Ryan Reynolds said on the Hot Ones interview was that they originally were going to release the movie as like some other title. They weren't going to do any marketing. They were just going to like send the movie under a fake name to all these theaters, and then like the movie was going to open up, and then you were going to figure out it was a Deadpool movie, and then everyone was going to have to rush to the theater all of a sudden, not knowing that the movie was coming out. But Ryan Reynolds said like we were trying to keep it. We knew that if one person leaks it, it's
it's done.
It's done. So ultimately, they don't do it.
Yeah.
The other thing that
leaking has never affected another Marvel movie, not one starring Wolverine. No, never.
Right. Originally, too, the movie was going to be called not Deadpool and Wolverine. It was going to be called Deadpool and Friend.
Deadpool and Friend.
And Friend. And they even they made promotional materials, they made posters, all these things. But when they leaked the title early, and a lot of people on the internet said we hate this title, they Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds said no, we have to change the title. We have to change the title to Deadpool and Wolverine. We have to. And there was a lot of fight, but they eventually won that argument, and they renamed.
Seems like there was a lot of fighting for a lot of stuff in this movie.
Yeah, a lot. The trailer for this movie received 365 million online views within the first 24 hours, more than any other film, surpassing Spider-Man: No Way Home, with 355 million views in its first 24 hours. So it's Leslie,
that we've come all. Sorry, I just had to decide. It's crazy we've come all this way. I remember first watching that video. 3 years ago, when we saw Ryan Reynolds. And Hugh Jackman just comes in the back here and he says, "Hey, Hugh, you want to do another movie?" It's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, because it takes them like 2 to 3 years to make these movies.
Yeah, but right? Isn't it? I remember that we've come all this way. It's just kind of surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. Leslie Uggams, who plays Blind Owl, celebrated her 80th birthday during production and received a cake to mark the occasion. When looking for Wolverine through the multiverse, Deadpool encounters a comically short version of Wolverine, like we had mentioned. It is comic accurate, as in canon, being 5'3". It looked ridiculous. Like
he was 5 foot. Was that Deadpool or was that Wolverine 5'3" though? No, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that the Wolverine we're shown in on screen is meant to be 5'3", which is a very, very short man.
Yeah,
that is for a man that is incredibly short height.
Which I guess because people have always been complaining about Hugh Jackman being too tall. Because Wolverine is canonically a very short character.
Yeah, Davin's with me for the brown and yellow.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Actually, I do prefer the brown and yellow.
And he says the mask was glorious. Yeah, it totally was. Okay, a couple more trivias. Vinnie Jones was approached to reprise his role as Juggernaut, but he turned it down because it's such a drama putting that suit on. The new Juggernaut wearing the Jones's old suit was Aaron W. Reed, who played Dude in Free Guy, which had Ryan Reynolds. It was a movie called Free Guy a few years ago.
It starred him. He produced it.
Yeah. Anyway, would have been better if it was Vinnie Jones, but whatever. And out on the bus reads, your friendly neighborhood cleaners, Stanley Steamer. This is a nod to Stanley, of course. Yeah, okay, I already told you about that. Pyro is seen in a red and yellow outfit. His costume colors in the comic books. Madonna's Like a Prayer is featured in the trailer and in the movie, giving it new fame 35 years after its original release on the eponymous album. Ryan Reynolds said that he had been waiting to use it for years and finally found the right moment with this installment. So that's the big fight with the Deadpool crew.
Yeah,
there as well.
Which was a pretty good, it was basically a one-shot scene. It was pretty good.
Yes, this is the 34th film in the MCU.
Sorry, the 35th. You said
4th.
44th. That's surprisingly low, actually.
Ryan Reynolds was forbidden from improvising dialogue because of the Writer Guild strike.
Huh.
So all that stuff. But Ryan Reynolds
that was all written down. That's kind of crazy.
It's all, but he's one of the writers, so
yeah.
He not the primary writer, but yeah, he couldn't ad lib because of that. I need something cool to kind of end with here. There are okay, we'll just end with this. There is a lot of horror movie connections with this one. There was Lady Deathstrike, as she was seen in the Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Hugh Jackman was in Van Helsing 2004. Ryan Reynolds, who was in the Amityville horror movie in 2005. Tyler Mane, who plays Sabretooth.
I didn't realize he was in the Amityville horror.
Yeah, he's the star of the movie. Tyler Mane, who plays Sabretooth, was Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's duology Halloween 2017 and Halloween 2 in 2009.
Did he play Sabretooth in Logan?
Was Sabretooth in Logan?
Yeah, it was it wasn't technically Sabretooth, but he was clearly supposed to be Sabretooth.
Oh, I don't remember Sabretooth being in that movie. I remember Sabretooth being in the other Wolverine movie, I think it was the Origins one.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And Aaron Stanford, Pyro, was in The Hills Have Eyes. Anyway, so lots of horror connections here. Those are the trivia points. They made him You think that was a 4-foot Wolverine, not a 5'3" Wolverine?
I definitely think so. He was comically small.
I don't know. Could be. We'll have to get our ruler. Okay. Well, that said, let's throw down a rating here, Eamon, and get out of here.
All right. Yep. It was nice seeing y'all.
Nice seeing you. What are you giving this movie?
I think I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Davan, if you're still watching, last night your rating. Okay. I liked this a lot. All right, you're here twice. Okay. I'll give this a 9. This is pretty good.
Why do you have our scores backwards? You have the 8 in yours and the 9 in mine.
Oh, I wasn't paying enough attention. Okay. Can't tell if Davan knows we're doing the scores, but you and I are averaging an 8.5, of course, as I'm 9 or 8.
Not bad.
It's definitely the thing I've liked the most since you see I liked Loki season 2 quite a bit, and those Guardians and the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So. But we hadn't really talked anything MCU since January when we were talking about Echo and the What If season and the Marvels. Which,
it's been a bit.
It's been a bit, So and I guess this is. I can't remember exactly when Captain America is coming out. It feels like soon because they're starting to already do the trailers. But just it doesn't come out this year. It comes out next year, February 14th.
Sorry, what comes out next year?
the new Captain America.
Oh yes, that's been mitigated in a ton of controversy.
Yeah, well then, so this will be the only MCU film, I guess, this year, which is a bit crazy. But
I think that says something about the way the MCU is going, personally. But
well, they got Robert Downey Jr. to be Dr. Doom. They got the Russos. Nothing to worry about here. There's a plan in place.
Yes, because there was not one bad movie with RDJ and the Russos in it, even during the golden years.
Not to me.
Yeah. Okay.
You said that people were tearing this movie up. Why? What was the criticism of this movie?
They were. I didn't actually see some specifics, but any specifics. People were just saying like they thought the jokes were cringy. That one line about Ryan Reynolds being canceled. Apparently, people didn't like that line. I don't know. It was very vague.
Yeah, it sounds like people just want, some people just want to see things fail. But I thought this movie was good. So obviously I gave it a 9. It was strong, and I'm glad to have seen it in the opening movie. He's saying 10. Okay.
It was not a 10. I will rightly respect your opinion, but it was not a 10.
Not a 10? What's a 10?
In the Marvel universe, would have been like Infinity War.
Infinity War is a 10? Okay. All right. Well, hey, fair enough. Yeah, I know if I want to watch it again, it's pretty good. So I would say that this qualifies. Okay, well, thanks for being with us, everybody. We really enjoyed it. We hope you'll check out our other content here on the channel. We're right now we're covering Big Brother every Thursday. We've done 2 episodes of that of the new season, and we'll be back to do more Survivor here on the Super Mario Brothers channel. Check out everything on the United Federation of Podcasts on our sister channel there, X-Rated, with Davan and Andre. They're going to be talking more about this movie on Tuesday, so look out for that. As well, I was on with in Trivial Debates this morning with a couple Star Trek enthusiasts. If you're into Star Trek, you want to see a Star Trek themed episode of Trivial Debates, go check that out over on our Trivial Debates channel, as that is now up there.
And go check out Eamon on Track, my show, where I'm hoping to soon review. I believe I haven't actually asked him yet, but I'm going to be reviewing. I forget his name. This is embarrassing, but
Adam,
yeah, probably
Adam Woodward.
Yeah, Adam did mention it. He wants to review a hip album with me.
Yeah, we'll get on there and do it. Yeah, like it's been a while since we had an episode from Eamon on Track. So
I will be doing that.
Get your production going there. Okay, well, look out for that. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time here on the Mary Mater Marvel Society. I guess in February when we talk about the Captain America movie. See you next time, everyone.
Yep.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on Trivial Debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mario Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.